Sometimes when we are going through these changes and awakening these gifts, it can feel very lonely. We can feel out of place because we're growing or remembering a part of us that has been asleep. And so the world that we lived in before doesn't quite fit anymore because we were hiding, because we were masking, and now we're revealing. And so it requires this kind of transition into a new space. And while we're in that transition, we have to build a sense of belonging within ourselves until that is replicated out into our community. Welcome to the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Ray Kovacs, a registered nurse and reflector in human design on a soul mission to help women like you rise from life's ashes with abundant energy, purpose, and joy. Each week, we'll meet at the intersection of science, soul, and storytelling as we create a bridge between holistic women's health, the sacred feminine, and cyclical wisdom. You'll get tools and insights from experts and guests, helping you to thrive in every area of your life. So go ahead and pull up a chair, grab your favorite crystal or cup of tea, and let's rise like phoenixes together. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I am Corey Ray, your host, and I'm so glad that you're here today. I want to navigate the space of sharing our spiritual gifts and the kind of evolution that we go through when we uncover our gifts and how we can create a safe space within ourselves to actually share. I know that a lot of women that are in my circle and a lot of women that listen to the Phoenix Perspective podcast are on an awakening journey, right? We're waking up to our gifts. We're waking up to the ways that we've been living our life and seeing that maybe they don't work for us anymore. And with that awakening often comes insights and intuition and gifts that are revealed through that awakening process. Those gifts can be, they can be a lot of things. They can be anything really. And it's what you consider as gifts. But when I'm talking about what I'm referring to is perhaps the clairs, right? We talk about being clairvoyant, so clear seeing or clairsentient, where you know things, like things just you get downloads, like things that epiphanies that come through, or even energy work or being able to hold space for somebody. I mean, these kinds of things tend to start to come around after you go through a dark night of the soul. Do you go through some challenging things? Because I think so many of us are trying to hold our lives together, right? And we're maybe not having or allowing safe space for us to reveal those gifts or for those to be felt or seen or experienced in our life. And also, we're kind of struggling with our health, or we're struggling with our relationships, or what's going on in the world. And so we end up like kind of tuning them out, or they're really quiet and they're kind of hidden under the kind of lives that we have created. And so a lot of times what happens is you will go through an awakening process, you go through a dark night of the soul, you go through, a sense of loss, a loss, a betrayal, a health challenge or complication, or an immense grief or something traumatic that happens. When we come out on the other side of that, sometimes it creates a fertile ground, a fertile soil for us to reevaluate how we're living our lives and how we're connecting to ourselves and how we're showing up in the world with our purpose or mission. We tend to get on with what our soul came here to do because so long we're just trying to survive, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we're all in different places. And so I know for a long time I was in survival mode, and there was no way I would have been able to tap into my intuition or my spiritual gifts at that time when I just was wanting to make sure that me and my kid were safe, right? So realize there's like all these seasons for us, but if you're on the other side of that and you're starting to feel like awakenings in you, maybe you're starting to know things before things are spoken, or maybe you're starting to notice that there's gifts. I've had several women here on the podcast already that have shared about their spiritual gifts. And I've also shared, about a lot of my experiences as well and more to share. But whatever part you're at, realize that it's it is an unfolding process. I had seen a question from a person in my social media who was asking how can you show up with your spiritual gifts when there's fear around sharing? Like, it feels scary. It feels dangerous even to share who you are or who you're becoming or the things that you know or the things you see or experience or feel. And I thought that was such a great question because I know I've been there. I know that there are things that I have wanted to share that I haven't felt safe to share with my kind of spiritual journey and my spiritual development. And a lot of times I'll kind of water myself down and say, yeah, I'm just a nurse. Or I might touch a little bit on woo woo things, but I find that it's it's been hard because there is a fear there. There is a fear of judgment. Oh, if I told people that I channel things and hear things, and that I talk to the trees, or that I even do card readings, like in some places, and feel kind of scary, especially being in a conservative area, in the middle of rural Indiana. And I think so many of us still feel that kind of witch wound, you know? And we feel like we can't show up authentically as ourselves because our lives are under threat. And in some instances, maybe they are. But I think for a lot of us, we're still feeling that collective wound, for women especially who have had to hide who they are or hide their gifts or hide their talents, hide their light for their physical safety. And in some places in the world, that is still true. But there's other places where it's not quite as life threatening, but it is more the perceived threat. It's more of a fear that we'll be rejected or judged or cast aside, or that we won't have friends, or that, people will look at us funny or judge us for these things. And so it's like almost a social type of anxiety or social fear that will be kind of cast out of the tribe. And what I have to say about that might actually surprise you, but I actually I'm actually grateful that I got kicked out of the tribe. I never I seemed to never fit in quite right with the people that I was around. I was always so bubbly and goofy, and then when I started down my spiritual journey and my awakening that happened, my spontaneous awakening that happened on my 2010 deployment, like, things changed dramatically for me after that in terms of how I viewed the world and what I was doing and my role as working as an intelligence analyst in the Navy. That I mean, I will tell you, when you 180 turned around with what I was doing, and I could not wait to not be in that situation anymore where I was responsible for what I was. And people around me didn't understand that. People didn't understand why I got out at 10 years and had just made chief petty officer and all of these things, and they said, "You're fucking crazy. Like, you're throwing away your life. You're throwing away your career." people called me a hippie and a socialist and a communist and all of these things just because I was starting to take different views about, war and what we were doing, because I had seen through a lot of the illusion of what's going on in our patriarchal society, and that was the beginning of the awakening process for me. And so what happened was, like, I got kicked out of the tribe that I had been a part of for a decade. And suddenly now these people were judging me and saying I was crazy for making the choices that I was to follow a inkling, right? I had an inkling that my life was taking me in a different direction and it wasn't in the military anymore. I didn't know what it was. I know now that it was like goddess that was calling me. It was the cycles that were calling me. It was the universe calling me into the next version of myself. And I trust that now, but back then it was terrifying. I couldn't express what was happening. I just knew that I needed to follow it. And why I say that I'm grateful that I got kicked out of the tribe, because it created a space for me to start showing up authentically. I no longer had to mask who I was. I no longer had to hide my light. I didn't have to dull myself down to fit somebody else's standard of who they thought I was supposed to be. I got to show up as me. And now, granted, I will tell you that process of unfolding has taken another decade and a half, okay? And I'm still on that journey of being able to be brave and show up with visibility in my gifts and my authentic service to the world. But there's something beautiful on the other side that happens when you start to embody and embrace these parts of you that are wanting to be expressed. Maybe it's your voice. Maybe it's your truth. Maybe it's your words. Maybe it's songwriting or card reading or art or dance or speaking in tongues or, maybe it's, I don't know. There's a million ways that we show up with expressive creativity that we can serve the world with our light that don't have any logical sense, right? Because it doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in the body. We are literally out of our minds when we are having these experiences because that's not where she lives. That's not where these gifts live. They live in our hearts, they live in our wombs, they live in our bodies. And so even our intuition, right? It's not up here. It's here in our hearts, in our centers. This has been an amazing conversation so far. And if you want to dive deeper into cyclical living, tune in for just a moment. One of my biggest soul missions is to help women reconnect with the rhythms of their bodies, nature, and life. We were never meant to live disconnected from each other or to feel isolated from our bodies or the planet. But most of us were taught to override our needs, push through exhaustion, and ignore the signals our body were sending us. It's time we ditch the hustle culture and start living in alignment with our natural rhythms. That's why I created the Red Tent Society on Patreon. This is my private community where we explore cycle tracking, womb wisdom, and seasonal attunement so you can have better periods, build deeper self trust, and connect with other women who are also on their cyclical journey. Inside the Red Tent, we gather for new moon circles, weekly reflections, and deeper conversations about living as cyclical beings in the modern world. If you've been feeling the pull towards a different way of living, the Red Tent is open. Join for free today at www.patreon.com/Red Tent Society. Now, let's get back to the show. So if you've been on a spiritual journey and you've noticed that there's things that you want to share, and maybe you even feel a calling to step out and serve the world with your gifts in some form of fashion, but you've been scared to do that because you're scared people are going to judge you or scared that it's going to jeopardize things. And I'm not going to sit here and say that everything's going to be peachy keen and that your life is going to not fall apart if you start sharing these things. Because It actually sometimes does. And that's because that is the nature of things. That's the nature of life. That's the nature of cycles. The leaves have to fall off the trees in order for them to go to the ground to turn into compost for them to feed the next generation of trees. So this is like real talk here. This isn't like, oh yeah, it'll be great. You just shine your light and be yourself and you're going to find your tribe. And that is true. That is true. And also, there is a crumbling that happens too. That's why so many times these spiritual gifts are revealed after a dark night of the soul, after a life's cataclysm, because now those things that were keeping us stuck, keeping us caged, keeping us masked are no longer there. And so now we get to see, when the dust settles, we get to see ourselves for who we are. That's why that happens so much. And I choose to believe that the reason why we go through these things is because we're trying to we're trying to see ourselves and to remember something that we had forgotten. And that sometimes we have to clear away the muck. We have to get rid of the things that were keeping us complacent, keeping us stuck, in order for us to see our brilliance. It's like a diamond, right? Like when you look on it on the outside, it's just a lump of coal, but then it's a diamond in there. Sometimes you got to get rid of all the stuff on the outside in order to see the brilliance of what's happening on the inside. So this is my encouragement to you, that if you're on this journey, you have things that you want to share. You have a purpose, a mission. You know there's something more for you to do here. There's something for you to share, but you're scared. Here to remind you, to show you that it's okay to be scared. Give yourself some time and create a safe space within yourself first. Practice your gifts by yourself. Make yourself a safe space to be yourself. Like, don't edit yourself when you're alone. And if you find that you never have any alone time, then maybe that's a good space to start. It's like, give yourself some space to just be you, with you. And then start building it from there, sharing it, creating a community around you of women who can support you, who will listen. Sister, if you have a spiritual gift you want to share, freaking message me. Send me a DM. I will always celebrate that. If you're like, oh my gosh, I just unlocked this level of my spiritual gift, I'm gonna cheer you on. And I'll be like, get on with your badass self. You will always have somebody in your corner there, okay? Like, I think that's been one of the biggest things for me, is creating a constellation of women, a global constellation of women who I can share my gifts or my insights with. And it's not just one, it's not just two, it's like 10, 20 women that I know. And there's like different aspects that I get to share with them based on our relationship and our, how close we are. But even just having that space really does make a big difference, because that enabled me to practice enough safety within myself to share these things and then have reflections back to me, that I was able to start sharing them in more public settings, by starting a blog, by writing down these things and putting them, some of those on social media, and then now here in this podcast. Like, this is a part of my expansion and helping to expand my nervous system to be able to hold more capacity for me to be all of me. So I'm still even on that journey. I feel like I haven't yet to still like bring all of that out. But I guess like we don't have to be completely healed to share insights, because I feel like there's still women, there's still those of us that are on the journey, and we're all at different points in our journey. There are some women that are fully embracing everything, that I look to, women like Rebecca Campbell and Lisa Lister and Colette Buren Reed, and, these women who have, fully embraced these things that they were here to share. And I continue to be mentored by them and get support through their work in order for me to continue expanding. So if you're in that space and you're wanting to expand, then get in a container get around women. I'm in the process of creating a container right now for women who want to explore womb wisdom and connecting with the cycles in order for them to unlock their spiritual gifts and talents. So if that's something that's interesting to you, then let me know. I'm creating that space as we speak. But there's so many out there. There's so many things. So it's like whatever connects to you, whatever you feel called to do, like explore that and be willing to experiment with that. And that's going to be so supportive. I want to do a card reading. Yay! I love doing my card readings for you. Today I am using the Work Your Light deck by Rebecca Campbell. I've been loving this deck lately. Sometimes if you work with oracle cards, sometimes you get on a kick and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm really feeling the energy of this deck." And I've certainly been feeling the energy of this deck since the beginning of the year, since January. So, okay, so this is the card that is supportive for our community today. And it is the Mintaken card. Mintaken. So Mintaka, for those of you who are into star seeds, well, first off, Mintaka is a sun. It is a star that's in the Orion constellation. It's the third star in the belt. So furthest to the right as you look at Orion, it's going to be the furthest star to the right. That's Mintaka. And in starseed theory or starseed, mythology, there's planets around the sun that have they're like water planets. They're planets where high vibration beings lived like mermaids and dolphins and whales, and they had the most beautiful crystal clear blue water. And so they're said that Mintakan star seeds are what we consider like one of the original light workers here on Earth. That they were here to help shine light on this planet and to hold a frequency of authenticity, of truth, and visibility. That was the thing about Mintak and Starseeds, is that there were no lies between them. They were very transparent. So they were as transparent as the sea that they were in. And so everybody got to shine their light and they didn't have to hide. And so they brought that frequency here to the planet. And what's very magical for me specifically is that I feel that I have connections to this planet, and hopefully I get to share that on an episode because that would be absolutely magical. But the thing, for this card here, coming back to that, is just a reminder that you have a light that is here to be shared with the world. When you create a space inside of you where you feel like you belong, then that replicates outside of you as well. Sometimes when we are, going through these changes and awakening these gifts, it can feel very lonely and we can feel out of place because we're growing or remembering a part of us that has been asleep. And so the world that we lived in before doesn't quite fit anymore because we were hiding, because we were masking, and now we're revealing. And so it requires this kind of transition into a new space. And while we're in that transition, we have to build um, a sense of belonging within ourselves until that is replicated out into our community. So just know that you always have a home here in your heart. You always have a place to belong. And it starts here within your heart. It starts here within your womb, within your body. And when you cultivate that sense of belonging and you shine your light when you're with yourself, that starts to send out ripple effects for you to have that sense of belonging outside of you as well. So you no longer feel like you're chasing or like you're unsettled, but you actually feel settled inside yourself. What a beautiful card. I'm so grateful we had that card today. And it's a good reminder for me too to embrace my light as I share here with you, because when when we shine, we give others permission to shine too. And I choose to believe that when I show up and I shine and I speak from authenticity and I speak from honesty about the things that are on my heart, that maybe you'll also feel that brave to do that too. That's my hope. That's my whole hope here for the podcast, is that you will feel brave to shine your light, because your light is so beautiful. It's so magical. And it is what is going to heal this planet. Your light, my light, our light together. And I know it seems really dark right now. That's why our light is needed. I know you are here to share something. And if there's a gift that is wanting to come out and wanting to be shared, know that when you give yourself space and start here with, safety within your body, and then you continue to create safe spaces around you, then one day you will be sharing your gifts and being in service to the world in ways that you never thought possible, and in ways that are so fulfilling that I don't think it can be had any other way. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you, dear friend. You're amazing. Keep shining, keep showing up, and remember, you are so worthy of your vibrant life. Yes, I'm celebrating you because you just finished another episode of the Phoenix Perspective Podcast. I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time together today. It's really been a blast. If this episode lit up your heart or sparked something inside your soul, please follow the show and share it with a friend who's ready to rise too. Until next moon phase, remember, you are so worthy of living your most vibrant life. I'll see you next time.